What's up, guys? Welcome back to Roensch Capital Charts. Today we're taking a look at super micro computer stock, ticker symbol SMCI, on a variety of time frames in anticipation of the next trading day, Monday, March 4th. All right, guys, SMCI stock on Friday finished the day up $39.36 a share, 4.54%, but it is currently up about 13%, something like that, as of the recording of this video. After hours still open here for about another 45 minutes. But of course, this big after hours move comes after the news broke that Supermicro Computer is joining the S&P 500. So let's take a look at this thing as we head into Monday's trading day. And let's start here by doing a volume profile on the 5-minute chart. But first of all, I mean, listen, when you get ticker specific news, because you guys always hear me say, listen, you have to take after hours with a grain of salt. And what's the reasoning, right? Because volume is low. But this is like one of those exceptions that we've discussed. When you get ticker or company specific news, that's when the volume tends to come in after hours. And if we take a look at this, you can see that the volume is actually matching, if not exceeding, the afternoon trading today for an extended duration of time. Okay, of course, as after hours moves on and we head into nearing the close and after hours, volume, you know, it's natural that it's going to fade. But this to me looks like a volume chart intraday, if not more on average compared to the afternoon especially. So these are where the after hour moves start to become a little bit more definitive. However, as always, the real test is going to be the open on Monday. Okay, so we're going to keep an eye out, of course, on that, and we'll cover the stock here on Monday. So let's start by looking at the volume profile of the 5-minute chart. This is kind of our daily ritual here. Now, by the way, listen, if you're new here or you have not yet subscribed, please do so. My goal is to hit 5,000 by market open on Monday. It's a big goal. It's a bold goal, but I think we can absolutely pull it off, only with your guys' help, though. So if you have not yet done so, please climb aboard, and I'll continue to provide value here. But here on the 5-minute chart, you guys know what we're looking for, right? I'm always looking for big changes in volume that are out of context maybe for time of day, that also correlate with big changes in stock price. Now listen, looking at after hours, it's a little more tough to do this. However, we can still look at it just in a little bit of a different way, because the after hours move is based on news, right? And it's basically all upside except for the little pull-in that we saw here. So let's first just zoom in on this. And if you take a look, you can see that we had pretty substantial volume on the pull-away, right? You know, this almost resembles one of my like intraday scalp setups out of my playbook on a very short time frame in what would be like an in-play stock intraday, right? On a 1-minute chart. It's a setup I call the breathe and go. You have a big high volume pull-away, a lower volume pull-in back to like a 9 EMA or something like that, and then accelerating volume on the pull-away, which is, you know, you would enter somewhere around here and then tear out on the high volume pull-away, cut it if you see, cut it tight, right? It's crucial on scalps like that. Of course, this is not a setup that I would take. It just reminded me of it, because what we're seeing here is high volume on the green moves, low volume on the small little fades, and then, you know, accelerating volume on the upside moves yet again. Bulls, I mean, I don't hate to see that, right? I mean, especially on news like that. And if we take a look intraday just really quick, you know, I'm kind of looking at like this leg up here. Did we see? Yep, we did. We saw, you know, 3 bars of increasing volume and then fading volume on the consolidation / pullback off of that little move there. Okay. Bulls, you know, again, something to look at. Again, it's only one factor of many, but I'd prefer to see that than not see that. Okay. Now, onto the 30-minute. Let's take a look at levels I'm watching here come Monday. Now, you can see here on this 30-minute chart that this after-hours move is pulling away heavy, right? And that's going to force, you know, this thing to do some work to get upside. Now, granted, the 50-period moving average on the 30-minute chart is going to be the quickest to move out of those two moving averages across the 30-minute, 4-hour, and daily. Okay, so out of all 6 moving averages, you want to think about it that way, the 50 period on the 30 minutes is going to be the quickest. And what I'm always looking for after you get huge moves like this, especially one like this, are as many psychological barriers getting up underneath the stock. I always say, right, getting some feet up underneath the move as quickly as possible. And I'm looking at that 50 period here on the 30-minute. Ideally, come Monday, you know, if the stock's still hanging out up here, wherever it's at, up on the open, you know, I would love to see that 50 period getting up in the mid-9s. You know, that would be a great thing to see, getting some psychological barriers up underneath that move as soon as we possibly can. Bears, ideally, you'd want to see this thing flatten out and keep that gap large. Okay, let's move on to the 4-hour chart and take a look here. You can see we're going to have a similar deal on the 4-hour chart. You know, that thing is going to take its time. It's barely even starting to flatten out, let alone curl as of right now. So on the 4-hour here, I mean, listen, I don't expect it to make any insane moves, the moving average, that is, come Monday. But what I would love to see is a curl upside getting up toward 875, if not a little bit higher. That would be a great thing to see. It's really all you can ask for as a bull here on the 4-hour chart. But aside from that, I think the daily is, as is typical, is going to be the most important out of all these. Now you can see here, it only really takes into consideration the closing price of the stock. It's not going to show the after hours movement, but we know that the stock is currently at about $1,027. Okay, so if we know that and we look at this contextually, the stock is approximately right here as of right now. That high is 1,077.87. Listen, bulls, do you know where I'm going with this? Okay, because we currently find ourselves, I mean, it was really only that intraday, because we're above this candle and this candle as well in the after hours here at least. Again, somewhat of a grain of salt, but we are seeing that move on high volume. If I'm a bull looking at SMCI come Monday, I'm thinking two things. Number one, the biggest thing. We've been talking about $1,000 a share for days. I don't even know how long at this point. It's a huge psychological level, massive, right? And just a couple of days ago, when the stock was down toward 800, I think a lot of people were writing off $1,000 a share, but we continued to talk about it because in a stock that's as volatile as SMCI, it was an absolute necessity to keep on the board. And here we are now, cracking $1,000 a share in the after hours. But priority number one, if I'm a bull on SMCI come Monday, hold $1,000 a share as a support level on as much volume as possible and do not give it up. Okay? Because if you're a bear, priority number one is cracking downside back into the 3 digits. That is number one. If you're a bear, $1,000 is your enemy. So if you're a bull, $1,000 is your best friend. On top of that, bulls, it's time to start talking about highs. Making our way up toward 1,100 is kind of like the ultimate goal on Monday, isn't it? Aside from just holding $1,000 a share, which of course that has to happen first. Absolutely has to happen. If we give up 1,000, you know, we could end up seeing a retest and rejection, little period of time, and that's a bit of a delay. But if the stock can hold $1,000 a share, bulls, we could look to utilize $1,000 a share as a little bit of a trampoline, again, assuming it's on high volume, to make our way up toward, through the high, up toward $1,100 a share. I know some bulls have their eyes set on 1,200, but let's take this one step at a time here. Because we just broke 1,000 and it was done in after hours on some news, so first, I want to see that hold. Okay, bears, you obviously want to give up 1,000, back down to the downside, head back down toward $900 a share is your ultimate goal as a bear. Implied volatility on the name, really, really important if you're interested in the stability of the stock or especially if you're trading options. Currently, compared to the last few months, we see ourselves in kind of the mid-range. Understand the higher that goes, the higher the potential risk for IV crush if you own purchased options. The lower that goes, the more favorable conditions become for traders looking to buy new contracts. Now, let's take a look at what was the options bias from Friday as traders positioned themselves heading into Monday. We had 310,000 total contracts, 189,000 of those were calls, and 121,000 of those were puts. So we are seeing a call side bias here from Friday. Okay, now if we break it down by time frame, the short-term speculators, the 0 to 20 delta range, 88,000 calls in that range and about 75,000 puts. So also we're seeing a slight, very short-term speculator call side bias as well as the overall call side bias. Now, not only that, but every single delta range as well, you know, which is covering really the entire variety of time frame sentiment, is also leaning with at least a slight call side bias, if not more extreme. But of course, understand that all of this volume took place, obviously, before the news hit in the after hours, because these are options. So I'm interested to see where we end up with the options chain, with the volume now that the news is in place, and we're going to see that on Monday. So we'll cover that in Monday's video. Please subscribe to the channel if you got value out of this. I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you next week.